I've talked about Jim Clyburn many a time on this show. For some reason, he's fooled a lot of people in South Carolina. A lot of these so-called boomers. I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on with people in South Carolina. They defend this guy. He ain't defending them. I learned what it is. When you talk aggressive like this, people tend to believe you, even if you're shoveling shit. See, I'm not shoveling shit. I'm telling you the truth. I have nothing to gain from you. I'm not trying to win votes for a certain party. I'm a person with a small media company in Maryland, pleading with you to wake the fuck up. But you defend James Clyburn because he did some shit in 65, who's selling us up the river in 2021. Here goes the video of a young man asking Jim Clyburn, help us. Help us, Jim. Watch his response. Not my response, his response.
So real quick, you spoke about the HBCUs. That's a great thing. But statistics shows that 20% of black Americans are college educated. Meanwhile, the 20% of us have a whole bunch of debt, right? The other 80% of black Americans mostly work in the service economy. So that's good for the HBCUs, but the rest of black America is pretty much being starved out. That's all I wanted to say. And on top of that, with HR 40, we were on something called Fix HR 40, where we put pressure on all of our congressional leaders to get HR 40 to the floor. We sat there for about 10 hours and watched the whole judiciary process. We saw it play out. Nancy Pelosi can bring that to the floor anytime she wants. We have been monitoring HR 40 and it's been stalled out for the most part.
You want to come to the floor, you want it to pass.
What we're trying to say, sir, is that because of public pressure, so for history, right? HR 40, right, it was introduced by John Conyers in 1987. It sat dormant for over 30 years, right?
No.
So, yes, it did, sir. Yes, it did.
Every year.
He introduced it every year, but it never got passed. We're talking about something almost my whole adult life. This thing never passed at all. Now there is public sentiment. There's energy behind it, right? The CBC just, they did a Twitter poll. They asked us, what do you prefer? Do you prefer, hold on a second, I'm almost done. Sir, it's all due respect. There's no emotion in this. We're just concerned.
These are facts we're presenting.
We're just highly concerned because by 2050, black American wealth is going to be at zero. Meanwhile, other groups' wealth are going upward while our wealth is deteriorating. Sir, we're just highly concerned. That's it.
Right.
We just want a better quality of life for ourselves and our children. I have 2 children myself. The tax credit is great. It's great. But after the tax child credit, it's like that's just paying the bills and that's it. It's still not helping us out of the predicament that we're in. We're just concerned. So that's it. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your question.
We'll address, we're going to move on. We have to allow others.
Yeah, we move. Okay. Any other question? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, first thing I want to do is I'm going to give credit to Tyrone P. Polk Davis on Twitter at Emerald TYNY27. That was the young man that asked the representative James Clyburn that important question that he dodged like Neo in the Matrix. He didn't even respond to that eloquent, important, nuanced, relevant question about the people he represents and about their families, their community that he represents. He didn't even feel a need to respond to it. But this young man did not disrespect Mr. Clyburn in any way. He didn't talk about the pharmaceutical money like I would have. He didn't bring up Jim Clyburn used to support Medicare for all, then suddenly had a sea change. So that's the thing. It's not just that he took the money, it's that he had a different position, then he took the money, and then he had another position. But this young man didn't bring that up. This young man stuck to the issues. He's talking about HR 40, he's talking about reparations. As we know, Dr. Sandy Darity and Kirsten Mullen, in their book, From Here to Equality, we know that HR 40 is not the remedy. Benign neglect is the issue. So we understand that, but my point is, at least if he's talking about reparations in HR 40, we're in the right vicinity to begin the conversation. Did Jim Clyburn come out with a substantive answer to the question? Hell no, because Jim Clyburn is not concerned with helping black people, and he didn't even counter the issues presented. He said black people will be zeroed out by 2050. You would think that's a relevant thing to be concerned about if you are a black congressperson in South Carolina representing 90% black people. You would think you would kind of give a fuck about that. Jim Clyburn doesn't care about that. He moves on to the next question. People want to defend Clyburn instead of address Clyburn. Protecting him will not save us. Jim Clyburn's doing fine. He's great. He's lived a great life. What about the rest of us? His job is to serve us. It's not our job to protect Clyburn. Nor was it our job to protect Obama. So Jim Clyburn, he masterfully shows he's not about our issues. Instead, he says it in a tough voice that makes people think he means what he says.
I mean, I guess the context is you have been quite critical of the left of your party. The Democrats lost a net dozen House seats last November. Despite winning the White House, you've been very critical of the party's progressive wing for, quote, sloganeering, you say, with movements like Medicare for All and defund the police. In May, though, Congressman, a focus group study from the polling firm Lake Research Partners found that swing voters paid only a little attention to Republican attacks on socialism or defunding the police, which they viewed as divisive fear-mongering, and that the bigger problem was that many voters didn't have a clear grasp of what the Democratic Party stood for. So is the whole attention on defund the police really a deflection by the party leadership from your own failures? That's what your critics on the left would say.
That is absolutely poppycock. I know what I'm talking about. I'm out here with the voters every day.
Despite winning the White House, you've been very critical of the party's progressive wing for, quote, sloganeering, you say, with movements like Medicare for All and defund the police. In May, though, Congressman, a focus group study from the polling firm Lake Research Partners found that swing voters paid only a little attention to Republican attacks on socialism or defunding the police, which they viewed as divisive fear-mongering, and that the bigger problem was that many voters didn't have a clear grasp of what the Democratic Party stood for. So is the whole attention on defund the police really a deflection by the party leadership from your own failures? That's what your critics on the left would say.
That is absolutely poppycock.
Now, Media Hassan is quoting a study that was done that directly refutes the nonsense that Clyburn is saying, blaming activists, blaming lefties who believe in certain policies like Medicare for All, defund the police, blaming them for losses that Democrats suffered. The survey showed that swing voters, not vote blue anywho, not Republicans, the people that decide our elections are people that are neither one. Swing voters said they didn't focus on the attack ads. They didn't focus on the mudslinging. The problem was they didn't really know what Democrats stood for. Instead of refuting that with some type of data that Jim Clyburn has commissioned his office to do, instead of Jim Clyburn referring to some type of study that he's read because that's his job as a servant of ours, of the people of South Carolina, and being the third highest ranking member of Congress, instead of doing that, what did he do? Bullcocky, Cuckoo-Puffs, salmonella, antifreeze, toe jam. What the fuck does that have to do with anything? Him and Joe Biden go to the same school of bullshit peddling, distraction, gaslighting, nonsense.
Like that's a bunch of malarkey.
I'm gonna let Jim continue because it gets worse.
Is the whole attention on defund the police really a deflection by the party leadership from your own failures? That's what your critics on the left would say.
That is absolutely poppycock. I know what I'm talking about. I'm out here with the voters every day. I did a town hall meeting last night in Jasper County, South Carolina. I can tell you, defund the police is a non-starter, even with black people. And if you don't think that's true, then look at the results of what just happened in New York City's election. So the proof is in the pudding. I know what I'm talking about. I talk to people every day. And defund the police is a chokehold around the Democratic Party. And let me remind you, If you're going to categorize left and right, I'm on the left of my party. Nobody can call me anything but a progressive. And been one all of my life. Met my wife in jail, being progressive. So come on.
And I appreciate that. But Congressman, just on the specific issues, because I know you care strongly about this, when you say defund the police, I'm not talking about the popularity of it. I'm talking about whether it hurt your party. None of the candidates in the November House elections ran on defund the police. You mentioned New York. Not a single New York mayoral candidate ran on defund the police. So I'm not sure why. I mean, I know why Republicans keep going on and on about it. I'm not sure why you seem to think it's such a big problem for your party.
Ask Jimmy Harrison, who was running for the United States Senate here in South Carolina. Just ask him. Ask Abigail Spanberger up in Virginia why I said it. I said it because it's real.
Okay, I gotta stop it there, Johnson. I gotta stop it there. Cut this shit, okay? Cut this shit. He brings up Jamie Harrison. Jamie Harrison raised $100 million against Lindsey Graham and still got his ass knocked the hell out. Because Jamie Harrison didn't stand for shit. Jamie Harrison had some sob story about his mom being raised a single mom and being black and having it tough, which is a story that 90% of black people have. Or at least 80% of black people have in some shape or form of struggle because of all the issues that the young man explained earlier about why we need reparations. As a result of the benign neglect that has happened to black communities, the strategic, intentional, benign neglect, not directly dealing with mitigating black people for centuries of oppression, we're in a certain situation. So it's not a new story to say, I'm black and I came up hard and we didn't have a lot of money. And that was Jamie Harrison's whole shtick. He didn't run on Medicare for all. He didn't run on defund the police. He ran on nothing. He ran on $100 million. He set records. Losing. Jamie would have ran on Medicare for all. He couldn't have did any worse than he already did. In fact, he may have fucked around and excited some people. He spent $100 million. You know how much he paid per vote? Paid like, what, $1,000 per vote is some crazy number. Running ads in places other than South Carolina. For what? He wasted money. That's the real story, Jamie Harrison. Uninspiring. No stances, because it's a corporate Democrat. He can't stand for shit that the people want. So instead, it's just a bunch of rhetoric. It's a bunch of flowery talk.
We didn't get the result we wanted today. But my friends, today is not where our story ends.
No, it is exactly where your story ends because you fucking lost.
We didn't get the result we wanted today. But my friends, today is not where our story ends. As we traveled the state, we learned a lot about rural communities suffering from too much neglect and not enough hope. We knew that something desperately needs to change.
This is the guy, Jim Clyburn, was to quote on every show about why he shits on Medicare for all, why he shits on defund the police. It's because Jamie Harrison lost. This is a guy who said in his concession speech, we learned a lot as we went around this state. Motherfucker, you live in South Carolina. How you not know what's going on in South Carolina? You make it sound like you dropped into a foreign land, like you visited Botswana. Motherfucker, you live in South Carolina. That means your ass is living in a bubble, don't even know what's going on in your own area. You ain't a new politician. You ran for the d-s.c chair back in 2020 or 2016, back when Keith Ellison ran. You ran again. You just became d-s.c chair. Here you are in 2020, losing to Lindsey Graham, as if you just discovered black people problems and poor people problems and rural problems in South Carolina, your home state. This don't make sense. So that's part of the reason why he lost. And the other reason he lost, he's talking his hope and change shit. Hey, that worked in 2008. People want tangible solutions to real shit, not soaring rhetoric from a fake $2 politician doing his best Obama impersonation. Shit, Obama would have lost in 2012 if the same amount of people would have came out for the Republican, for Mitt Romney that came out for John McCain. We wouldn't even have a second term of Obama. because the shit stopped working then. And here you are in 2020 using the same shit, and you spent $100 million to do it. And at the end of the day, we got Jim Clyburn using it to gaslight. You're using his laws to gaslight us. And meanwhile, offering black people nothing in South Carolina except more tough talk about what he know and what he don't know, who he know, and his him and his wife, and he went to jail. Thanks to our criminal justice system and that guy you supported, Joe Biden, a lot of black people know what it's like to go to jail. Now, they might not went to jail doing sit-ins, sir, but some of them went to jail for crossing the damn street. Some of them went to jail for not having money. Most of them went to jail because they were black and they were poor and they lived in an area that's over-policed. And you supported that candidate that made that possible. Back to Jim Clyburn, doing more deflection, gaslighting, and nonsense.
I said it because it's real. It's a real problem. We should stop sloganeering. In 1960, Burn, Baby Burn destroyed our movement. And defund the police will do the same thing to progressive movements today. This kind of sloganeering does us no good.
I take your point on sloganeering. I guess the problem is I watched a lot of Republican attack ads last November. They did mention defund the police. They also mentioned Nancy Pelosi. I'm sure you wouldn't say Nancy Pelosi's to blame for you losing. They mentioned corruption. The problem is Republicans are going to attack you always as socialists and lefties. And I think the problem becomes, are you kind of agreeing with their attack on your own party by talking so much about it? I guess that's the discussion. Last word to you, Congressman.
I know what I feel. I know. One single Democrat to tell me that Nancy Pelosi is a problem. I've had plenty Democrats to tell me defund the police is a problem. So, look, I only know what the facts are.
Democrats lost. Democrats lost seats because Democrats don't stand for shit. They didn't lose because Republicans paint them a certain way. Hell, they're painting Joe Biden as a socialist. Nothing they say has anything to do with reality. Now they're talking about critical race theory. Why? Are there people running on critical race theory, Jim Clyburn? Huh? No. They'll run on Clyburn. They'll run on George Floyd. They'll run on anything that's a wedge issue. So what Jim Clyburn is saying doesn't hold water. And of course, Jamie Harrison and whoever else will agree with him because he's the third highest ranking in Congress. And they don't want to step on his toes. And they're on the dole too. They're all looking to get reelected. They're all looking to get seats. They're all looking to move up the career ladder. That's what they're in it for. And if it's not, they need to stand up and call shit out. And they need to stand up for us. And need to fight for the policies that are going to matter. And if you're not willing to stand up, why should people elect you? I mean, real talk, like, if you're not going to stand on anything, if you're not going to push bold policies that change people's lives, why would people care about voting for you? The whole idea of scaring people with Republicans is all the Democrats got. It's stuck by with Biden this time. I don't think that's going to happen in 2024. That shit ain't going to work. Back to my main thesis of this whole thing. They want our votes. They don't want our problems. They want to gaslight us and blame us for their failures, and their lack of conviction, their lack of focus on issues that would excite you. The average human being, when you talk about issues that impact their lives, they perk up. That's how people work. You would think Jim Clyburn knew that. You would think these politicians knew that. They do know it, Johnson, but the problem is the donors, the corporations that fund their campaigns don't want them talking about Medicare for all. How much money goes into the budgets of these police departments? Some of these jurisdictions, 40%, 50% of their state budget goes just to policing. So if you're spending 40 to 50% of the state budget on policing and the crime rate's still through the roof, it should be an easy rebuttal for a person as gifted linguistically as Jim Clyburn to refute the bullshit. But he's not there to refute the bullshit. He's there to continue the narrative. Because what's happening is it's catching on, folks. It's catching on. People are listening. People are paying attention. When you say, damn, they are spending a lot of money on cops. And look at it. Yeah, that's the other story. Look at it. All the money they spent on the cops in the Capitol. And look what happened. Couple guys with bear mace took over our fucking Capitol? That's why people are like, it had to be an inside job because all the money we spent on cops and they infiltrated the Capitol? Yeah, but see, what they don't know is a lot of money that's spent on these police departments don't go to hiring more police. It goes to overtime and double overtime and triple time, holiday time, and equipment and rocket launchers and ballistic missiles and MRAPs and Obi-Wan Kenobi head-spinning devices that transform the door into spaghetti when you go into the door, and transistor satellite descrambler metabolical de-inhibitor translated bullshit. So that's the rub for it all. All I'm saying, guys, keep pushing them. Keep fighting. They're starting to crumble. These corporate Democrats, we're burning their ass right now. We got to keep burning their ass. And I'm down to help you do it, but you got to put my issues first. Black issues got to be at the top of the agenda, or you're going to lose you're going to lose your largest voting block. Don't listen to these people telling you we need to focus on class. Listen to the Reset Race podcast, and I'm going to repeat something from them that I heard them say. You ignore, and look, I'm paraphrasing. If you don't talk about black issues, black people ain't going to pay attention. You want black votes? Got to talk about black issues. Period. And I don't mean watered down black issues. I don't mean people that don't have their heart to say it with their chest. Those people not rooted in data. Those not talking about the statistics. It matters. We can get them on the ropes. We can win this shit. But it only happens if we push a real black agenda. Let me ask you something. Do they know us? When I say they, I mean the talking heads on cable news. Do they know you? I mean, they talk about the world as if it's a sport. They play political games, report on our pain, rack our brain to feed the stock exchange, but do they know us? Do they know what we care about? Nope. They're too far away. They can't see us. They can't feel us. They can't relate to us. See, when you want to know what's going on in your world, trust someone who lives in your world. Subscribe.